This morning, we're going to start with a panel to talk about the concept of statewide information sharing environments. And to lead this panel, I want to introduce Kshemendra Paul, the Program Manager for the Information Sharing Environment. And as we've talked much during the course of this conference, the NJ-ISE is one of the IGES Institute's most prolific partners involved with us and us with them in many, many different important initiatives around the information sharing and safeguarding mission. So with that, I'm going to ask Kshemendra to please welcome him to our event.
Good morning. It's great to be here this morning. I've been enjoying the sessions, the hallway conversations with folks over the last couple of days. My team has been here, Mike Howell, my deputy, several other folks. We have a booth outside. A remark that we were having last night over a cocktail during the reception was that this community is maturing. Now, I don't mean that in terms of getting older, although I guess we are all getting older, but in terms of capability, cohesiveness, impact. And I think that's great. I think that at the Badges and Tech Dinner last night, Steve gave out 10-plus year awards for membership, and I want to salute that. I thought that was wonderful, and it's I think useful not only from the perspective of recognizing the industry members that have been foundational and have stuck with the IGES Institute and really as a member-driven organization, drive the value, but also I think the return on investment that you all are making is really very apparent to me and my colleagues in the government, both federal, state, local, and it's really great to see. Now, when I look out at the audience here, I see a lot of old friends. I think that some people would look at this audience and see vendors from the justice and public safety community, but I look out, and to paraphrase President Bush, I see my base. So I wasn't sure how that joke was going to work this morning. I think I need a little bit of work on it, and all right. I'm trying. My stakeholder engagement team is telling me to add a little bit more personality into my remarks there, so we're trying to make it work, and we want to make sure that you get a good return on your investment for your coming to this conference. We're going to get into a panel after I make a few remarks about the statewide ISE initiative. This is a really important central initiative for the office, and I think for the broader justice, public safety community, and even more than that, the Homeland Security counterterrorism community. I want to introduce my fellow panelists, Tom OReilly, immediately here to my right. Tom has been a longtime collaborator, a mentor to me. He runs the Police Institute at Rutgers University. Before that, he was at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, leading the nationwide SAR initiative, also leading the charge on National Information Exchange Model. He doubles as a information architecture professional, although he won't let on to that, but I think that he's got a real talent for it. Before that, of course, a longtime leader in the state of New Jersey justice and public safety community. Next is, in order, walking down the panel, is Captain Rich Laverty. He's executive officer for the New Jersey ROC, the Regional Operations and Intelligence Center, the New Jersey State Fusion Center. He reports directly to Major Chris Schultz and is a key leader with New Jersey's efforts around intelligence-led policing, counterterrorism, homeland security, and the broader missions of the New Jersey State Police. And then finally, Ashwini Jarral, Director of Operations at IGES. He's well known to everybody in this room. He's a key collaborator across a variety of different projects that we work with the IGES Institute with our state and local partners. So I think it's going to be a great panel and very, I think, informative. We're looking to make a few remarks. I'll make a few remarks. We'll get into the panel. Each of the panelists will go through a presentation of different aspects of the statewide ISE initiative. And then we're going to get into some Q&A with the audience and tee up your questions, because if you don't, I'll start calling on people in the audience. And I've done it before, right? So that's, yeah. All right, let's. So, Mike Howell presented this slide and our mission and vision, and I think it's familiar to most people in the audience, almost everybody here. I do want to highlight the second aspect of the mission, improving nationwide decision-making by transforming information ownership to information stewardship. The key there is information, how you manage it, how you share it, how you safeguard it. That's really our lane. We're focused on information, and it's the mission of the ISE Institute. I think really there's a lot of opportunity to save money, lower risk, improve mission impact and reach, better serve the citizens in our community through better management, sharing, and safeguarding of information. And Mike also talked about this slide. I want to take a moment, though, to highlight the information technology industry that's the platform for how we think about our mission, our scope. In particular, I want to highlight the Standards Coordinating Council, which anchors up underneath the White House governance that I lead with the National Security Council staff. The Standards Coordinating Council allows us to bring together standards organizations and industry associations in a public-private partnership that, from where I sit, is incredibly robust and unique and driving impact at national scale. Organizations on the standards side include the Global Standards Council, the Object Management Group, the Open Geospatial Consortium, OASIS on the industry association side, IGIS, IAC, which is a Washington-based technology association, FCA, AFEI, the NEAM Program Office, and it's wonderful to see, and in particular, I want to salute Steve Ambrosini, the Executive Director of the IGIS Institute, but also a key leader within the Standards Coordinating Council. He brings your voice into the national policy process, and not just in an abstract way. We're talking specific things like how we think about conformance on interoperability standards, or a variety of other things, and I'll get into just a little bit of that later on. I also want to salute Ashwini, who as a day-to-day participant in the activity of the Standards Coordinating Council does carry the voice of industry, again, into very specific things that we're doing that are driving value and are basic to implementation of the national strategy. It's important, too, that because of our focus, when you think about the scope that's described on this slide, it's humongous, right? I get asked the question sometimes, what is it that you don't do, right? Well, the way we keep our sanity, the way we keep our focus is always remembering our lane is information interoperability. Information interoperability primarily focused on advancing the counterterrorism and homeland security mission, but always aware that it's just about information interoperability, and other classes of information can benefit from these approaches. And we're seeing that through the IGIS Institute, for example, the focus on corrections, courts, human services. All of these areas are benefiting and using ISE interoperability frameworks. Really, it's good to see that. Now, 3 years ago, we went on a listening tour, and part of that listening tour was coming to industry, and we came to the IGIS Institute Winter Industry Brief. The meeting was on the GW campus downtown, and on a snowy Friday afternoon, we all got together, a subset of the membership, and me, and we spent about, I want to say, 3 hours, maybe 4. We went as long as anybody wanted to go. And I was asking for input on the national strategy for information sharing and safeguarding. It was a really robust session, and I'm happy to report that all of the ideas we talked about are in the National Strategy for Information Sharing and Safeguarding, signed out by President Obama a year ago. I'm also proud to report that just in the last week, we've put out the first iteration of the Strategic Implementation Plan for the National Strategy, signed out by me and my counterpart in the White House, an agency-based plan that moves forward on all of the 16 priority objectives. We're going to have a session, I think, from 2 to 4 in the Jefferson Room downstairs, the bottom of the escalator, walk across the open space, and it's right there. where I'm hoping to close the loop with anybody that's interested on what's in the strategy, what's in the implementation plan, what are we looking for in 2014 in terms of strengthening industry involvement in the implementation. So I encourage folks to come 2 to 4 Jefferson Room. You know, in the conversations that I've been listening to over the last couple of days, we have focused on things like that really do reflect the principles of the strategy. And so I just want to take a moment and talk about these principles and what they mean to me. Information is a national asset. That means that, you know, it means exactly that. The information has value as an asset, an intangible asset. It needs to be safeguarded to protect the asset value, both in terms of, you know, security as well as the privacy of the personally identifiable information reflected in that information and entrusted to the government. And it needs to be shared. It needs to be shared so you can recapture the value of the asset. It has a life cycle. Right? Most information is captured in transactional systems, right? And it's important to be intentional about designing those transactional systems and the policy frameworks around that information so that you can effectively share and safeguard that information to capture the value of it over its life cycle as well as to safeguard it from a privacy and security perspective. We need, in this era of cybersecurity threats from every direction, and Mike Howell talked about that the other day, to always be mindful of the need to be looking at sharing and safeguarding as two sides of the same coin and make shared risk management decisions. Traditionally, we don't. We do the safeguarding up one chain of command, the sharing up another, right? And that gets us into trouble. So we need to bring that together. And then finally, we always need to remember that information sharing isn't about creating pools of information for people to swim in willy-nilly. It's to support specific decisions. Steve Ambrosini talked about the idea of common operating processes or common operating models. Those models define requirements, allow us to work backwards to drive information policy around what do we need to do to make decisions to keep our communities safe, to protect the American people, to enhance national security. The strategy really focuses on 5 goals: collaboration and accountability through organizations like the Standards Coordinating Council or the governance activities that I lead through the White House. Common standards, again, common, you know, that's a familiar idea. Shared services and interoperability, safeguarding and protecting privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. 2 to 4 o'clock, we'll go through each of these 16 priority objectives. You know, I'll be able to talk about, answer any questions about where we are, what are we trying to accomplish, what's the current baseline plans, where do we see opportunities to enrich those plans to better integrate our non-federal partners. So I'll go through this and use that as an organizing frame for the conversation this afternoon. Earlier in the conference, you all talked about the importance of geospatial, and I want to highlight some of the work that we've helped sponsor around Geo for NEAM, again through the Standards Coordinating Council with the Open Geospatial Consortium. That work's been critical for driving broader adoption. DoD adopted a NEAM first policy, in part and in a material way because of our commitment to going from a, you know, an effective but not complete integration of geospatial markup language and geospatial standards to taking it all the way to drive, you know, robust interoperability on the wire. There's a great thread of work going on here, and we're fully supportive of it. And again, the Standards Coordinating Council is providing the forum for that coordination and collaboration that allows for that impact. We're also getting and continue to be very, very robustly involved in cybersecurity information sharing, again with the key idea that why not leverage the nation's investment over the past decade in homeland security and counterterrorism as we advance on cybersecurity information sharing. We're also using the Standards Coordinating Council here to collaborate on threat modeling and how to, for example, better align over time some of the work that's very promising with the Structured Threat Information Exchange model, STIX, and TAXI with the NEAM activity and several other standards. And we're doing that work with the with the Object Management Group. Standards-based acquisition and procurement. That was a focus of the plenary panel at the the outset of the conference. it's important here to highlight too that the role of IGES across an entire life cycle of driving standards-based acquisition. Whether that's upfront creating the vision, again we're using the Standards Coordinating Council as a place to coordinate across industry associations and standards groups, developing the standards in the working groups and committees of the members of the Standards Coordinating Council, not within the four walls of government, but out in open settings. The springboard process, we think that's critical. Industry-based certification of conformance. It's difficult to ask industry to invest in standards conformance without there being a process that's rooted in industry and trusted for conformance with those standards in a way that can be recognized in procurements or special condition language on grants. A topic where we want to definitely take the next steps to leverage the springboard process. Tooling and support, awareness, handbooks for contracting officers. These are all things that I can get into more detail in the session this afternoon about what do the plans look like around standards-based acquisition, informed by white papers that I did, as well as the white paper that IGES has done and was talked about on Wednesday. And I read the paper, by the way, and I think it's very good. Okay, so now coming to the topic of the panel and transitioning, the statewide ISE. It's important to note at the outset here that there are a lot of efforts across the country to try to deliver statewide or regional information sharing environments. Pam Scanlon is a leader with what she's done with ARGIS in the San Diego area. Is Mike Carter in the room? There he is. Hi, Mike. So Illinois is taking steps down this path to create a statewide information sharing environment in Illinois. South Dakota has Connect. Indiana has IDEX. Missouri is doing work in this area. Texas has been a leading implementer of the National Information Exchange model. In the New England states, they're looking at this. Massachusetts is pretty forward-leaning. Across the country, there are activities around statewide information sharing environments. There are some things about New Jersey, though, that make it particularly noteworthy. We're going to talk about that. So, what are they? I put it into three buckets. One is a real focus on the strategy and policy. Colonel Rick Fuentes, the superintendent of the New Jersey State Police, has a strong vision to integrate everybody with a public safety mission into an integrated architecture, over time, to effectively share information to keep communities in New Jersey safe. He wants to do it based on national standards so that the statewide ISE can plug into a national ISE and share information in a policy-compliant way. There's a governance structure that's statewide. It's rooted on the Fusion Center and the intelligence-led policing ideas. The use of national standards is another area that distinguishes the statewide ISE project in New Jersey. In particular, pretty advanced use of federated identity and privilege management and how that's developing. And then finally, a real discussion about what is the business model. How do we make sure that we advance the use of industry-based certification of conformance for interoperability, the role of IGES, and a commitment on the part of my office towards a program evaluation approach so that we can generate rigorous data that's useful to legislators, mayors, governors to try to scale up the activity more broadly. We're going to get into it in a little more detail. So I will pause on this, I think, and we'll shift to the panel. So let me just...
Good morning. I'm Tom O'Reilly from, I think where I am, from Rutgers Police Institute in New Jersey, and it's my privilege to be here today and share with you just a couple of thoughts. I guess at the highest level, the way I sum up the NJ-ISE is I guess a couple ways. One is the ability to unlock the CAD, RMS, and other legacy databases that are out there that are not interoperable with each other. Contrary to TV in Hollywood, the idea of pushing one button and getting everything back is still a distance away. And hopefully when we're done with this, it won't be so remote a capacity in the state of New Jersey. Second issue is that we're looking at this from the first 2 hours of an investigation. Primarily, that's the focus in terms of what can we do to give the street cop, the detective, or the analyst access to information in those first 2 hours, which is equivalent, again, to the TV version of, the young cop being told, go canvass the neighborhood and see what you can find out. Well, in this case, kind of canvass the databases in terms of, and see what he or she can find out in terms of from an investigative lead. And then finally is keeping it light in terms of, and it's many ways, it's light tied with the term of frequency. That in many cases, the information that's returned is more of a frequency count than it is a deeper dive in terms of the analytical issue, but it gives that investigative officer, the street cop, the ability to take the next step and follow the thread down deeper into the database. We go to the next slide, please. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, thanks. See, he accused me of being an architect in technology, right? I know. So, I think in terms of, it's an inside joke in terms of, I am not a technologist, but know just enough to be dangerous, I guess. I think that from our perspective, the first issue is enabling that free flow of information. Again, going across the 500 municipal police departments, the 21 prosecutors, and a multitude of various state agencies that are engaged either directly or indirectly with various aspects of the criminal justice system, whether it's parole, probation, corrections, or some of the ones that are a little more remote in terms of some of the health, transportation, et cetera. Providing a secure environment, obviously critical, gets more critical each day in terms of things that leak out the back door. It's critical in terms of our relationship with the community that will do what's right with the information, which includes safeguarding that information and preventing any inappropriate use, including it basically being accessed by people who don't have a need or a right to know in that sense. Provide the various backroom issues in terms of network data, and again, keeping it simple. And I think the last one is very critical in terms of optimizing investment. We all are broke. I don't care whether you're a state, city, or county government, federal government, obviously, in terms of there's not a lot of new money out there, and we need to maximize the legacy databases that are out there. In fact, I've said this publicly, I don't care in the next 2 years on the NJ-ISE program if we don't have one new application. If we can just harness and harvest the information that's out there, we'll be so far ahead of where we are today, and I think that's critical, particularly from an economic point of view, and with the credibility with the people who are our funders. And that also goes to the issue of reuse, and I think that in some ways we use that term as in a very rhetoric, or a very kind of casual way, and I think though that we need to pay more attention to that in terms of how we can take some of those existing databases, and by using things like middleware, NEAM, and some of those other standards, reuse them for other applications. So the issue in terms of the backbone of this program, that's something that Kshemendra and I talked about many times over the years that I was with the federal government, is anchoring it all in the business use case. We took 30 detectives from various agencies around New Jersey. We sat them down and said, what's your wish list in terms of, we got a number of different things, single sign-on, federated search, lightweight, the ability to get the information in the first 2 hours, not the first 2 days or first 2 weeks, so it could assist them in that aspect of their job. So if you go down the left-hand side of that slide, we developed use cases that were focused in 5 critical areas. One was the Route 21 corridor, which is an initiative of Patterson, Jersey City, and Newark, which represents about 18 miles of roadway, about 5% of the real estate if you go 10 miles to the right and left of that road, but over 50% of the homicides and shootings in New Jersey along that 18-mile stretch of roadway. So we wanted to be able to assist in that. Super Bowl, 2 weeks, It's not in New York, it is in New Jersey. And trying to support that in terms of from an operational point of view, and certainly we've been devoting a lot of time, state police, in New Jersey government, state police and others, in terms of making that successful. A lot of lessons learned from Sandy last year at the dinner last night. A year ago, Colonel Fuentes shared with you some of the lessons learned and some of the disasters from that, and that certainly continues to be with us. The city of Boston and the marathon bombing, and then the issue of sex and human trafficking is another area that seemed to be, when we got done with it at the end of the day, the priority areas. In the Route 21 corridor, we have what we call the 5 deadly sins, nothing new, but basically it was agreed that these are the priorities in terms of robbery, shooting, burglary, car theft, and then one that is epidemic, it seems, right now in the Northeast, carjacking. And that certainly goes, we had that misfortune in the mall right before Christmas, where carjacking turned into a homicide that was pretty disastrous. And then finally, we were also looking at kind of keeping a balance. For those of you in the public safety business, you know that the homicide and shooting issue is predominantly an urban issue, but yet we have 15 urban centers in New Jersey and 485 suburban and rural towns and cities in New Jersey. So we needed to keep their interest. And to them, the big priority is burglary, that property crime. So we're also developing that. So on the one side, the shootings and the violent crime. On the other side, the burglaries. Just quickly on the governance structure, again, it's fairly lightweight. At the executive level, we have the Division of State Police Colonel, the ROC, which Rich represents, the Fusion Center in New Jersey, the Office of Homeland Security and Prevention, which is the State Homeland Advisor, Office of Information Technology. Steve Emanuel has been a very excellent and engaged partner, which is critical because he runs the Garden State Network and many of the backbone assets. The Urban Area Security Initiative, which represents the 7 counties in Northeast New Jersey. And then we've been working in terms of, for an executive sponsorship, Essex County Prosecutor, the Sheriff's Office, and Newark Police Department, and Jersey City Police Department as kind of the marquee leadership on this issue. Obviously, there's a lot more. And then we work through with the ROC's governing board as the second level of governance, which represents about 30 of the users and participants, state chiefs, Prosecutors Association, et cetera. Our partners are IIR, IGES, and a number of agencies, but more importantly, the thing that has made this successful is the excellent relationship, although originally a little bit difficult, but with our service provider community. And I think that's very critical. I want to single out CSI. I think Chris is here. Chris, your name? Okay, right there. Has been very helpful to us. GTBM, Microsoft. I think Microsoft is here. Yep. Red Hat and Tetris. I know Tetris is here. I saw. Yep. There were 7 or 8 other vendors that, excuse me, Steve, service providers that came into play. But they weren't prepared to take the risks that the companies I just mentioned were, and it's been a very good relationship. But we're looking forward to, just as you throw a pebble into the lake and you see those concentric circles or ripples, kind of embracing and bringing in additional folks as we move along. Oh, I guess I should have put this up. Sorry about that. So I think in terms of where we're going on this, it has a very large value to the state in our estimation. Just the ability to unlock that legacy data has already proven a major value, not only in terms of from an investigation and enforcement perspective, but the enhancement to the dialogue among the practitioners in terms of, I didn't know you collected that, how do you collect it? and it's having its own very positive impact. Certainly in terms of, it's worked with us in terms of Hurricane Sandy, lessons learned, and addressing a number of those gaps, and it allows us to build that out both in terms of the Super Bowl and other issues that are confronting us. From a short-term goal, we hope to be operational next week with the pilot. It's just about ready to go as we speak today. It was demoed last night. That pilot will take the first 30 people who gave us those business use cases, which is our critical anchor to reality, and kick the tires in terms of using it. If those 30 find it successful, then we're going to basically license the agencies that they represent for a broader application of this in terms of testing it. And then if that works, then we're prepared to make whatever adjustments we have and optimistically go operational in the very near future. Two interesting observations. Not only has this developed a constituency among the public safety community, but it's also developed a large degree of interest in the state treasurer and governor's office. They're confronted every day with the question of state aid and how do we deal with the public safety issues that are confronting, in spite of the fact of a decline in crime rate, there's still an increase, particularly in the urban centers, on the violent crime issues. So I think the best way I can say this is the old expression, if you give a person a fish, he eats for one day. If you teach them how to fish, they eat for a year. And I think that our state government is realizing that the value of information, the value of information sharing, the value of information as part of a intelligence-led policing or an information-led public safety arena is very critical to make better and more efficient use of the limited resources that we have. And I can't say we're quite there yet, but there's ongoing discussions about kind of transforming that term of state aid into perhaps providing that access to information which will allow each of the agencies to make better and more informed decisions. One of our very critical partners and the group that will be the host of this information, kind of the center of the wheel, is the Regional Operation and Intelligence Center in New Jersey, under the command of Chris Schultz, reporting to Colonel Fuentes. And Rich is the executive officer there, and he's going to now talk a little bit about the impacts that they see from their perspective.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. I think I've deferred my 5 to 7 minutes to you already, right? Kshemendra, I apologize. I brought notes for the tattoo convention. I don't know if I'm prepared to speak for that. Thank you. Good morning. Marie invited me out here to speak about the New Jersey-ISE on a Friday morning. I said, Marie, just try to stop me from doing that right now, right? So the information sharing environment and the benefits to the ROC in the state of New Jersey, that's what we're going to talk about. As Tom said, I am the executive officer from the ROC, and our operational mission or vision is to be the focal point of information sharing throughout the entire state. Now, that's a vision statement. What does a vision statement mean? It means we're not quite there yet. It's something that we're looking and striving for, and we're taking bites of it every day. But the importance of information sharing as we go into an intelligence-led policing model, in which years past we used to talk about intelligence-led policing, and you look at cops and they look at you and go, and they nod, but they're shaking their head. Well, we're in a situation right now due to resources, and I'll get into that, which is, as Tom alluded to, is nationwide. But in New Jersey, it's particularly painful for us because you're looking at cities out there, Camden, Trenton, Irvington, Newark, all these cities that the ROC is trying to support. I mean, Camden City itself was on the cover of Rolling Stone, and under it said the apocalypse, and that was only a few weeks ago. All right, so you're looking at, there's no choice in going forward with this model, and it's forward-leaning or forward-thinking. So you think about the operations of the ROC. We are all crimes, all hazards, all threats. That sounds pretty cool, right? I mean, basically we do everything. Now, what is our capability to sustain that? All right, you look at what we do for threats with our collaborators there. We have all sorts of collaborations going on with the FBI, OHS&P, our own people, working together to monitor the threats in New Jersey throughout the world and how it impacts New Jersey. Our crime unit is there to support the entire state, but we have our critical cities in which we support. And let me just say this, is that, and basically the theme of what I'm saying here from a ROC perspective, we spend entirely too much time in the collection phase of analysis. Entirely too much time. All right, so when you first walk in the ROC, my first day in the ROC, I was looking for a bed of analysts. I was looking for these high-powered computers or data systems or databases in which we would draw or automate information into the ROC, and I have 3 analysts looking at it and making phone calls to police departments. All right, through the work of the NJ-ISE, through the help of all the participators and collaborators from, I'll just name out here, Tom OReilly. I like to call the Fusion Center the building that Tom OReilly built, and I say that, and I'm saying that for real, all right? We wouldn't be here without the work of Tom OReilly and Kshemendra Paul and people, and some of the people in this room who I've met who have collaborated with us to push the mission of the ROC forward. The challenges in the state of New Jersey is this: we're broke, right? We're broke. We have diminished resources. I alluded to before is that given a cop's perspective, given our own device, we would not share information. It's just in the culture of law enforcement, right? And we used to, when we had resources, we would use our resources and throw a net over the city. Well, those resources are no longer there. So the choice of whether or not you're going to share information from Patterson to Newark or to Irvington up in the 21 corridor, the choice is no longer there. So now you have the buy-in. You know, I'm going to give a fishing analogy here, Tom. When we used to have, any fishermen here? When we used to have, okay, so don't correct me, please. All right, when we used to have some resources, right, we used to go seine fishing, right? We used to go seine fishing, throw a net across the entire city. Well, the mission has not changed. We no longer have that resource to throw a seine net throughout the entire city or through a region to reduce violent crime, and that's the game that we're in. So what do? We have a fishing pole, but we have the same mission, and our mission is to reduce violent crime in the state of New Jersey. So how do we have to do it? We have to be surgical. You have to have that technology to go, where are the fish? Where are the big fish? So talking about the NJ-ISE, these legacy systems, to bring these legacy systems to give us that information to where we can direct resources. We can provide information to decision makers, executives throughout the state of New Jersey to say, this is where you want to put your people. These are the hot spots. This is our analysis, and be smart with your resources, because if you're not smart with your resources, you're going to fail, and fail within days within New Jersey. There's no doubt about it, right? So the absolute need for it is there, right? Like I said before, we're an all crimes, all hazards, all threats fusion center. There are success stories there. We've had some major incidents happen in New Jersey. Everything seems to tie to New Jersey somehow, right? Through something, you know, some sort of connection there. You know, you talk about the Boston bombings up in Boston, right? And through days, we were supporting that through situational awareness reports going out. How did we get that information to push out to our executives to see if there was any nexus to New Jersey? We get right onto the Fusion Center network. We go through HISN, the situational awareness room. We tie within minutes to the brick. We're talking to New York at the same time. We're looking at these reports coming in, and then we're vetting them. And then we're providing that information to our executives to where they can make decisions as far as deployment of resources. And that's where we want to be. That's the position the ROC wants to be in. Once it came out with the names that were involved in that particular incident, New Jersey, in the ROC, our intelligence watch and warning unit went right to work running those names, looking for connections. All right, so within an hour, we found a nexus to New Jersey, to where we provided that information to the JTTF. The JTTF went right out and interviewed those particular people. That's the role, again, that we want to be in at the ROC. Hurricane Sandy, things went black. I'll never forget that if you were in New Jersey. My way home from division headquarters You could feel your car lifting up. And I never thought I'd hear over the communications, the radio dispatch for troopers to signal 30. Signal 30 means get back to the station. I've never heard that within my career. Hopefully I'll never hear that again. Right? So things went black, information blackout. All that's out there we're at the Rock, is what? Is social media. And social media is a great tool to have, but social media also gets us spun up. So our job is to inform executives, the Attorney General, the Colonel, as to what is the environment out in these impacted areas. Right? So we go, and wouldn't it be great if we had the draws, the feeds of these CADs and RMSs that were still standing to come into the Rock, to be automated, to be that passive collection coming in to where we could define the environment. Now we did it the old-fashioned way, which is fine during a significant incident. We went out and actually went to the scenes. The Rock personnel went out there, established a command post, worked with the prosecutors' offices in the impacted region, and we tamped down all the excitement that was going out there, all the hysteria, which is normal for a significant event like that. So you look at information sharing during a significant incident, looking at our private sector, through the All Hazards Consortium. Our FLIT unit, Fusion Liaison Intelligence Unit, drew that information, parsed it down to New Jersey, and pushed out information utilizing McLaughlin RISC, because that was our secondary distribution, in which our initial fell down or could not push out our 15,000 messages at one time. All right? So we pushed out information. What basic information do you need? What gas stations are open? What hotels are open and open for business? Right? All those grocery stores that are open, pushing out to the private sector, letting the people know, knowing and giving a comfort level that we're still up and running. All right? So you look at Boston as a threat, and you look at the hazard of Sandy, and then you look, and speaking of what Tom talked about, that Passaic River corridor that's now named the Krstat region. It was inspired by a shooting of a police officer in Paterson, New Jersey in 2007, and now we've come to this. This is, to me, I wish you could all attend one of these meetings, the Krstat meetings, to see this information sharing amongst urban and suburban police chiefs and exchanging information to tamp down cross-jurisdictional crime. Right, so I talked to Joey Brennan. Joey Brennan works at the Rock. He is a one-man show, if you will. He is Mr. Krstat, and he's the one that works to collect that information. Just to give you an example, every Krstat meeting that happens on a monthly basis, I know for a fact he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning still collecting information. That's not the way to do business. All right, I can't depend on Joe Brennan to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning still putting a PowerPoint together to give a briefing out the next morning. All right, that's the need for this information sharing environment in New Jersey, to where he could be having that come in, having that information come in. Just a quick example: our liaison officers. We have an epidemic. There was an epidemic of gas station robberies, armed robberies in that region. All right, they use this track flyer system, and some of you are aware of that. This track flyer system is and they put it on a terminal that was originally intended for another reason. But cops are cops. They saw the utility in this one terminal that all police departments have. So they put the track flyers on this terminal, to where a liaison officer of the Rock from Belleville sees a common picture between a stolen car in Elizabeth and one robbery they just had. They start talking. All right, so the Rock at the same time is working on the same issues in Union County. They start talking. So we receive this information. All right, and we push this out. It turns out that this one particular car is involved in 15 separate incidents cross-jurisdictionally throughout the 21 corridor. Right? So at the same time, there is another group within a subset of Krstat. It's a new group that is pushed up, the Core 4. The Core 4 is 4 different cities. It's a collaboration of different agencies, including the state police and Essex County's prosecutor's office, looking for people that are thought to be involved in homicides. There's no warrants for them, but they want to go and talk to them. Right? So what the Rock has in place is a pointer system utilizing sieges. So when that person gets rolled, that fingerprint gets rolled, and that person is flagged in our CCH, criminal history, he gets rolled, it automatically goes to the rock. The flag goes up. That flag went up, and we shot that to that particular group in Essex County, and those homicide detectives, so that kid is sitting there because he got arrested for a stolen car, and here come the homicide detectives from Essex County. That's information sharing. That's happened within a week to 10 days ago, and those success stories keep happening. Just think of the where we could be if we could fully stand up this New Jersey information sharing environment. I know the people at this table are working very hard, along with the ROC, to push this forward, and very supportive of it because we need it. And we'd be doing a disservice to the people of New Jersey if we didn't push forward with this program.
Thanks, Rich. So one of the things which we're going to talk about, as you heard Rich, Tom, and Kshemendra talk about the value of information in context of day-to-day operations. Is it on? Can you hear me now? Okay. So as you have heard, in context of information, the value of information, and one of the things we're looking at is the work that has been done in the justice and public safety community for the last 10 to 12 years around the standards. And one of the things which we realized was we're talking about standards, but we had to take a step back saying, what is the end goal? Where we want to be when it comes to information sharing. And as Tom was talking about the 30 folks we brought from the state and the county to tell us what their needs were, what their challenges were. And the message was very clear. Keep it simple. Can you help us resolve the whole signing in and out 12, 15 times? Because in one case, one of the individuals said that I actually have access to 15 to 16 systems, and on a daily basis I sign in, sign out. And how I actually can do my job, and I'm signing in, signing out, and collecting the information, bringing it to my environment, now putting it together and sitting there analyzing, and it's very time consuming. So can you help us with that? And the third thing is in state of New Jersey, we have all these systems. We don't have access to this. The only way we have access is if we know somebody on the other side, where we have friends, where we are working with, call them, get the information. That's how we collect information. So is there a way you can help us get access to that information? So one thing which we did was, as looking at the state of New Jersey, one of the things we looked at was Route 21 corridor, as mentioned earlier. We looked at all the public safety agencies. When we say New Jersey information sharing environment, this is in context of public safety. What we are building here is, and what we're trying to achieve here is the information sharing environment for public safety. Tomorrow it might be an information sharing environment for health, for transportation. There can be multiple variations, but what we're trying to do here is in context of public safety. So one of the things which, and what I will show you is how we're actually building the capabilities based on the feedback we got, based on the standards that are being developed, and keeping in mind the information sharing and safeguarding mission to make sure that we can achieve that and also protect the privacy and also address all the policies that exist at the different agencies and at the state. So one of the hopes we have is that this is our end goal, is that we can create that funnel of information where we can standardize processes from collecting information, from disseminating and addressing all the policies concerned, that we can also have a service where we can actually address how to go across different networks. Because in New Jersey, there's a statewide network, then law enforcement officials have access to RIS, also CJS, Leo, and now for Super Bowl, there's a HISN. So how we go across using our existing credentials, can we actually support the network services? So our hope is that we can actually address some of the ID management issues across different network services. We can actually standardize some of the data services, and I will explain what that really means. Address some of the technology services, and the key theme here is that can we leverage the existing investments that are being made at different agencies across the state and have access to those technologies across the state within the justice and public safety community. And then same thing with the application services. There are different applications that exist in New Jersey where the investments are being made, how we can bring those into the environment. And at the same time, can we standardize the process where as a user I can come in, not only address the ID management issue, but also where I can actually go and issue a request for information, get something back in a standardized manner, and it's easy to use, and everybody uses an example of Google type search, and that's what we are hoping to achieve here, is that you can go to this, at least our short-term vision is that we can actually have a portal to machine where you can have access to the information, and our long-term strategies to going from your existing RMS or CAD or JMS or offender management system to all the other data sources. Also, what the term we use is machine-to-machine interaction. That's what we're hoping to achieve long-term. So in New Jersey, within the state, these are just some of the sample systems and applications that individuals have access to. Then on top of that, you have out-of-state. Then you can actually add the complexity when you have all these systems at the county and municipality level. So as a user today, whether I'm at the state level, part of the New Jersey State Police or any other justice and public safety agency, or at the county level, I am actually signing in and out of these systems every single time I need information. The only thing where some of the issues have been addressed is through the sieges, where New Jersey State Police, when you get the credentials, that they will give you access to at least 2 or 3 systems so you can use the same credentials to go across. So this is current state where actually you're signing in and out every single time to get the information. There's no automated information sharing going across. There's New Jersey DEX where the data is being collected, but again, in New Jersey DEX, information is not coming from all the municipalities, all the counties. So that's the other thing, is that how we can achieve and have access to those data sources through this environment. So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, is that how we actually as a user have access to different networks where we can use our existing credentials, whether it's issued by our agency at the local level or at the state level, how we can actually make sure that we can actually pass the credentials to the different services within the state to have access to those networks. And our hope is that with NJ-ISE for public safety, that we can enable the users to connect to this environment, go across the Garden State Network, which is the state network, which is used by state agencies and also local and agencies, have access to RIS using the same credentials, have access to LEO, have access to HISN using the same credentials. So as part of that effort, what we have done is, in the test environment, we are leveraging a global framework, also called as Global Federated Identity and Privilege Management. Underlying standard which we're using is the SAML assertion there. We wanted to showcase how that framework can be leveraged to have access to these different networks and these different applications in the state. Also, our vision is where we want to standardize some of the data services. As we're sitting and talking to the 30 or so folks from the state and the county level, is one of the thing which we heard was, give me information in context of my role. We want to see a standardized version of, if I'm looking for a person in regards to carjacking, I want that information. I don't want any other information. If I'm looking for shooting, then this is the context of this information. So one of the things which we identified was, if we look across person, events, and properties, can we actually standardize some of the exchanges? And this is where we are now introducing a concept of leveraging National Information Exchange model, is that look across if there are any exchanges that already exist, where we can actually use those exchanges to map to the existing systems at the state level and also in the counties, and have a standardized exchange, so we are not actually developing one-off exchanges again. Even because one of the lessons learned for us is that every time, yes, NEEM help us, but the problem we have is that for the same problem, we end up getting 10 different exchanges. So how we can actually build a consensus within the state to address some of these data services, so at least everybody can come to this environment and have access to the same information based on their role or more. And the key thing is the role-based access to these data services, which will be connected to the, again, NJ-ISE environment. The other concern was how we get access to technology services. We talked about LPR, and New Jersey has done a good job of putting a policy there There are different investments that have been made across different agencies at the state and local level to have access to LPR information, but the reality is not everybody can afford the license plate reader capability, so how we bring that into this environment. There's a video capability, which Rock has done a great job of enabling that statewide, but how we can actually share that with other stakeholders in the New Jersey-ISE environment who have vested interest and they want to have access to those technology, sensor technology, plus the sensor data. And again, there are a lot of capabilities that exist across the state, but how we bring that into the environment. So one of the, our long-term goal is to take these investments that have been made in the state, take the existing technology, and bring them to this environment so the users of the New Jersey-ISE will have access to technology capabilities in terms of technology services. So not only they have access to the data, but also the technology. The last thing, and this is just a sample set because we try to, what I'm demonstrating here in the slide is that what we have heard from the users, and this is a subset of the information. And what our hope and vision is, and we have tried to demonstrate in the test environment, is a concept of shared services. Can we take the identity management and streamline the process so everybody across the state can leverage these processes and some of the frameworks to address some of the identity management issue? Because we all know that every time we buy new systems, we create our own IDs, and as a law enforcement official, now we add our other credentials on top of it, how we can actually address that and have a common standardized process in context of the New Jersey-ISE environment. Also, in context of request for information, can we standardize that and put that into this environment where everybody, if they want to leverage this service, they can take it to their own environment or their application and reuse it, but still have the underlying standards intact so they can actually fit into their own environment and leverage the work that has been done in this New Jersey-ISE. And same thing with the alert, warning, and notifications. We got a lot of feedback is it will be nice for us not only to actually go and do the federated query, but also give us an ability, if I go and I'm interested in certain information, give us an ability to have do the alerts, warnings, and notifications. So can we standardize that service and put that there so at least other agencies who want to reuse this service, the work has already been done using the standards and how we can use that. So that's an example of shared services. So as we look across, the goal we want to achieve is opening the connections to the different applications and systems across the state, addressing the identity management issue, making sure that we safeguard the information that users have access to, how we do the auditing, and the identity and access management is the key feature of this environment, and auditing and monitoring to make sure that as we enable these capabilities, we're addressing all the policy concerns and the policy issues in this environment.
Jersey-ISE activity, you know, the focus on privacy and security policy and messaging, continued strengthening of use case common operating models and processes rooted in real, pressing, and immediate business issues, public safety issues in the state of New Jersey, the business model with industry, the state and regional governance activities to move this forward. You know, and in particular, the interoperability of focus using national standards. At this point, you know, having failed in my duty to keep us on track, I'm going to maybe just indulge just a little bit and see if there's any questions. Anybody have any comments or questions in the? Yes.
Just interested in the types of legislation that might be going forward to assist. Are there any areas where the rest of the state is actually assisting in that sense?
We're not using, at this point, legislation. Actually, we don't see a need for that in terms of what we're dealing with. It may, as we get a little deeper into some of the privacy issues, it may surface, but at this point, we're not. What we are doing, though, is trying to engage the state treasurer and the governor's office, as I said before, and kind of convincing them that this is a somewhat novel, different approach to state aid to the municipalities, and that if they can build out that functionality, that it'll have a fairly positive impact, we think, on the current crime picture in New Jersey.
Anybody else want to comment on that? You know, I'll make a comment. There is a need for, I think, some top-down leadership on this. I don't know that legislation is needed out of the bat, but I do think recognition of the business case. Right? When I think about the state of New Jersey, 479 police departments, individually everybody's struggling, but collectively there's still a lot of resources in the system. And if you take common approaches based on common standards and industry buy-in, there's opportunity to make a real big difference. I actually think that the bigger challenge is on the business model side with industry, right? That we have a robust, open conversation, that we build confidence, that we're able to demonstrate, how to do this, a new way of doing business focused on interoperability, right? And doing it in a way that is telegraphed, is open, has industry input and buy-in, right? And then I think that's really the critical piece in terms of scaling this up. Additional questions? Anybody want to talk
on the question of legislation? I did forget the one thing we are trying to do is duplicate the Delaware, Maryland pawn shop piece that is pending right now. In terms of that is one piece of legislation.
Anybody else? Any questions or any comments? Anybody that's working on statewide initiatives want to make a comment about? I'm looking at Mike over there, but anybody? Well, I think in terms of closing remarks, I would encourage folks to continue to track the work that we're doing. As I mentioned earlier, it's the intent of my office to invest some, we put a little bit of money into this activity to help the state leverage its own spend and authorities, but also to develop these national approaches to using national standards, further develop the national standards in their use. We're looking at putting some additional resources to bear to make sure that we can effectively document the work that's happened through a program evaluation lens to make it accessible more broadly, as well as to support activities around building the use case with the legislators and key stakeholders and with industry in the state of New Jersey. We're also looking to partner with the ISE Institute to make sure that we're having a broader-based conversation here under the Standards Coordinating Council that I talked about. We're really keen to see a race to the top around use of national standards to advance information sharing. And what does that look like, right? It has to be sharing best practices across different implementations, again, an open conversation, clarity on program evaluation, bringing in lots of different stakeholders, including legislators and governors and mayors and things like that to advance this conversation. Thank you for your attention.